I need to tell you something about my past. No one else knows this, and I'm terrified that once you hear it, you'll never look at me the same way again. There's a part of my past I've hidden from everyone, but with you, the truth keeps knocking on my chest, begging to be released. I need to tell you something about my past, something I buried so deep that even I pretend it never happened. But loving you makes hiding impossible. I've carried this secret for years, but now that you're in my life, silence feels heavier than the truth I'm afraid to speak. I need to tell you something about my past, but I fear the moment your eyes change, from warm understanding to quiet disappointment. There's something I've been running from, a truth I've never shared, and I know letting you in might break the last wall I've built around my heart. I need to tell you something about my past, something dark, something painful, something that shaped me more than I ever admitted. Every time I look at you, I feel safe. And maybe that's why the secret I've guarded is finally demanding to be told. I need to tell you something about my past, but I'm scared you'll mistake who I used to be for who I am today. Before we move forward, you deserve to know the truth I've never given anyone. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't trust them with my scars. I need to confess something from my past, something I've carried alone, something that kept me awake for nights I can't get back. There's a chapter of my life I've never opened for anyone, but with you, the lock finally feels weak enough to break. I need to tell you something about my past, but the fear of losing you is louder than the relief of telling the truth. I've hidden a version of myself from the world, but you deserve to know the person I was before life taught me to build walls. I need to tell you something about my past, something I was ashamed of, something that changed everything about me. The truth I'm about to share is not pretty, but neither is living with the weight of something I never let escape. I need to tell you something about my past, something that broke me before life gave me a chance to heal. There's a story buried inside me, one I never thought I'd speak aloud, but somehow your presence makes silence feel like a lie. I need to tell you something about my past, not to scare you, but because I can't let a secret stand between what we're becoming. My past isn't clean, it isn't gentle, but it's mine. And if you care enough to stay, I'll finally tell you everything. I need to tell you something about my past, but I'm still learning how to forgive myself for the person I once was. There's a truth I owe you, a truth that shaped every flaw, every fear, and every fragile piece of the person you see today. I need to tell you something about my past, something that still echoes in the quiet moments when I'm alone with my thoughts. The secret I've carried wasn't meant to stay buried forever, and if anyone deserves to hear it, it's you. I need to tell you something about my past, something that hurt me, something that changed me, something that still follows me. I've been silent for too long, and the more you love me, the louder my past whispers that I must tell you the truth. I need to tell you something from my past, not because I want pity, but because honesty is the least you deserve. The story I'm hiding isn't beautiful, but it's a part of the journey that shaped my heart into something you found worth loving. I need to tell you something about my past, something that may break the picture you've built of me, but I hope you'll see me anyway. My past has teeth, sharp ones, and it bit into me deeply. but maybe if I share it, the wound can finally close. I need to tell you something about my past, even if it means showing you the parts I swore I'd never reveal again. There's a version of me that existed long before you, and it's time I let you meet them, even if it hurts. I need to tell you something about my past, something that lives in the shadows of who I am, whispering reminders I wish I could erase. If I'm going to love you honestly, I have to tell you the truth. I've been burying beneath forced smiles and quiet nights. I need to tell you something about my past, something that taught me pain before I ever learned what love could feel like. This truth might shake you, but keeping it hidden would destroy me, and I'd rather risk losing you than lie to you. I need to tell you something about my past, but every time I try, my fear of losing you pulls me back into silence. My past is messy, tangled, and full of regrets. But if I'm brave enough, I want you to understand the heart behind my scars. I need to tell you something about my past. It's a truth wrapped in shame, one I've avoided confronting until now. I need to tell you something about my past, something so heavy that carrying it alone has exhausted every part of me pretending to be strong. There's a truth buried inside me, and every day I hide it, it grows sharper. But maybe your understanding can dull its edges. I need to tell you something about my past, but I fear the moment your smile fades and you start seeing me through the lens of my mistakes. My past holds a wound that never fully healed, and if I share it with you, maybe the scar will finally make sense. I need to tell you something about my past, something people would judge me for, something that still haunts my quietest thoughts. There's a part of me you've never met, a version shaped by pain and choices I regret, and it's time I introduce you to them. I need to tell you something about my past, even though exposing it feels like peeling open a scar that still burns. My silence has protected you from the darker parts of my story, but honesty requires letting you walk through them with me. I need to tell you something about my past, something I locked away, not because I wanted to, but because I feared how people would react. The truth I'm carrying is as fragile as it is devastating, but you've earned the right to hear it. I need to tell you something about my past, but I'm terrified that once the words leave my lips, you'll never unhear them. There were nights my past swallowed me whole, and I survived them alone, but maybe sharing them with you will finally set me free. I need to tell you something about my past, something that shaped my fears, my boundaries, and why love feels both beautiful and dangerous to me. My truth is messy, imperfect, and unromantic, but hiding it from you now feels like a deeper betrayal. I need to tell you something about my past, but I'm scared the truth will paint me as someone you no longer want to hold. There's a reason I guard my heart so tightly, and that reason lies buried in a chapter of my past I've never shared. I need to tell you something about my past, something I wish I could erase, but I know it's time to face it with you. My voice shakes when I think about telling you the truth, but my heart shakes even more at the thought of losing your trust. I need to tell you something about my past, something I never wanted to relive, but loving you requires a level of honesty I can't avoid. There were days when I hated the person I used to be, and sharing that version with you feels like reliving every mistake. I need to tell you something about my past, something that may change your perspective, but I hope it doesn't change your feelings. The secret I'm hiding shaped the shadow behind my smile. And maybe it's time I let you see the truth behind the darkness. I need to tell you something about my past, a truth I've whispered only to my own reflection in moments of vulnerability. My past holds memories I wish I could burn, but since I can't, I'd rather hand them to you than keep battling them alone. I need to tell you something about my past, something even I struggled to accept until I learned to forgive myself. Some truths aren't easy to speak, and this one sits heavy on my tongue. But I know you deserve the whole story. I need to tell you something about my past, even if it means dismantling the version of me you've created in your mind. My past isn't heroic or poetic. It's messy and complicated. But sharing it with you feels like the beginning of a new chapter. I need to tell you something about my past, something that may reveal why I flinch at love and why I crave it so deeply. There's a confession in my heart that aches to be spoken, and maybe your presence is the safe place I've been searching for. I need to tell you something about my past, even though the words feel like walking barefoot over the memories I once buried. My past taught me lessons in the hardest ways, and if you understand it, you'll understand why I love the way I do. I need to tell you something about my past, but I'm afraid that once you hear it, you'll view me through the lens of yesterday's mistakes. There's a truth inside me I've been afraid to share, but your love makes silence feel far too heavy to carry anymore. I need to tell you something about my past, something that once broke me, but I survived, even when I didn't think I could. My past is a collection of storms I sailed through alone, and letting you hear about them feels like lowering the anchor for the first time. I need to tell you something about my past, something that still stings, something I never found the courage to admit out loud. The truth I hold is painful, but hiding it from you now feels more painful than the past itself. I need to tell you something about my past, something the world never knew because I learned to smile too well. My past held me captive for years, and sharing it with you is my first step toward freedom.